Lauren Agee was a 21-year-old student from Tennessee who was found dead in a cove off Center Hill Lake after attending Wake Fest on the weekend of July 25th to 27th, 2015. The official story is that after consuming a large quantity of alcohol whilst partying, Lauren fell off the cliffside where she was camping with friends and into the water below. Her cause of death is listed as blunt force trauma with a possible drowning, despite the strange behavior of her friends after her body was discovered. No one has been investigated as a possible suspect, and the authorities have listed her case as death due to misadventure, stating they do not believe any other individuals were involved. This case is truly puzzling, as there are serious doubts as to whether the official story is actually what transpired, and I believe the case warrants another look by investigators. Born in Biloxi, Mississippi on August 19, 1993, to parents Sherry and Brian Agee, Lauren Agee was a 21-year-old student with a bright future ahead of her. Lauren lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee with her mother Sherry and stepfather Michael Smith, and three siblings, Allison, Jordan, and Joshua. Family and friends would describe Lauren as having a big personality. She was social, kind, and extremely outgoing. Her mother would later describe her as full of sugar with a little bit of spice. Lauren was passionate about performing, loving to dance, sing, and play sports, especially gymnastics. Her mother would later describe how she would spend hours copying music videos to perform in front of the family. Lauren obtained a scholarship to study dance at Bethel University in Tennessee. Surprising everyone, however, she turned down the scholarship, opting to study criminal justice at Bowles State University instead. Lauren had a busy social life and a boyfriend who she would describe as being the one. Sherry, Lauren's mother, was surprised when in July 2015, Lauren announced that she had plans to attend a festival called Wake Fest. Wake Fest is a 3-day wakeboarding tournament on the weekend of the 25th to 27th in Nashville, Tennessee on Center Hill Lake. Wake Fest describes itself as one of the largest grassroots tournaments in the Southeast and has risen rapidly in popularity over the last decade. When Lauren told her mother of her plans to attend the festival and who she planned to go with, Hannah Palmer, her mother was unhappy. She was uncomfortable with Lauren going to the festival, not just for the alcohol and partying, but because she did not trust Lauren's friend. Lauren and Hannah have been friends for years, but Hannah would drift in and out of her life depending on whether she had a boyfriend or not. Sherry would describe her as a fair-weather friend, who was more concerned with drinking and boys than maintaining her friendship with Hannah. Sherry would later say, "As a mom, I just had this bad feeling." But Lauren was 21 and no longer a child. Sherry felt that she could not stop her from attending the festival. To try and dissuade her mother's fears, Lauren told her she would be driving and they would stay in a cabin near to the lake instead of camping. So on the 25th of July 2015, Lauren packed up her car and said goodbye to Sherry and Michael, and began to drive with Hannah Palmer to Center Hill Lake. Sherry noted that Lauren would give her big hugs, not once but twice before leaving. By all accounts, the weekend was off to a good start. Both girls were posting pictures on social media of the two of them laughing and joking whilst in the car on the way down. When they arrived at the lake, the pair were joined by two guys, Aaron Lilly, who introduced himself to Lauren as Hannah's new boyfriend, and Christopher Stout, who Lauren had never met before. As it was the first day of the festival, the four of them spent the day drinking, watching sports, and joining in with cliff diving, which is a pretty regular activity at the festival. It was reported that whilst they were cliff jumping, Lauren had hit her head when she landed in the water, and was said to have passed out for a few minutes. When she came to, she had said that she was fine, and carried on drinking. Whilst there is the possibility that Lauren had got a concussion from statements of those with her for the rest of the day, nothing seemed out of the norm. It is at this point Lauren finds out that the sleeping arrangements have changed. Instead of opting for a cabin, the group are now going to be camping on a cliff near the lake. In the last few years, it has been argued whether Lauren knew from the start of the sleeping arrangements, but from what she told her family, boyfriend, and even people she met up with at the festival, she had come to Wake Fest thinking they would be safe in a cabin. Regardless, Lauren had not packed to be climbing up steep cliffs and definitely not for camping. All she had was a sleeping bag, flip-flops, her phone, and another set of clothes. The cliff where the group were camping has a vertigo-inducing 27-meter drop on one side and a 13.5-meter drop on the other. The only way to reach the campsite and the four had to canoe across the lake and use a rope to pull themselves up the steep cliff. Aaron and Chris had come prepared with a tent for Aaron and Hannah to sleep in, and a hammock where Lauren and Chris would sleep. Lauren would immediately voice her unhappiness over the sleeping arrangements, with her friend Cassie, who is also Aaron Lilly's ex-girlfriend, later reporting that Lauren had spoken to her about the sleeping arrangements and told her about her boyfriend, and that she had no romantic interest in Chris. Of course, we only have Cassie's statement of this, but by all accounts, Lauren and her boyfriend were happy together, and she was not about to jeopardize that for a night in a hammock after setting up camp. the four went back down to the marina to continue with the evening's festivities. Video footage from the marina bar that night shows her to be happy and pretty lively, and also shows Aaron and Chris getting into an alleged altercation with Aaron's ex-girlfriend Cassie Franks. This is also the point where Lauren expresses her annoyance over the sleeping arrangements. Lauren would go on to moan to Cassie about how she has been inadvertently paired with Chris just because his friend is dating hers. Lauren also asked Cassie if she could stay with her instead of on the cliff with Hannah, Chris, and Aaron. But Cassie tells her they don't have any more room at their cabin. So between 12 and 2 a.m., the four head back to the campsite to turn in for the night. Footage taken by the group demonstrates that they knew how dangerous it was to make the journey back to the campsite, especially after drinking all day and night. A video posted online shows them in a canoe heading towards the cliff shouting, "We're heading for the death trap." Despite this, they make it back to their hammock and tent safely and settle down to sleep for the night. There was a photo of Lauren and Chris, which is said to have been taken at the end of the night, but is still daylight in the image and the reflection on Chris's glasses. But regardless, the four of them did make it back and go to sleep. When the group woke up on the morning of Saturday, July 26th, they found that Lauren had gone. Her belongings, including her phone, were still at the campsite, but Lauren was nowhere to be found. Assuming she had gotten up earlier than the rest of the group, the three went down to the festival and carried on their day, despite having no idea where Lauren was. They asked around and spoke to some of Lauren's mutual friends as well as Cassie Franks, but nobody had seen her that day. Knowing this, the group didn't do anything to report it or even look for Lauren. They carried on with the day's festivities and were seen in different bars drinking together. At approximately 4:45 p.m., Lynn Blair and his son Dylan are out on the lake fishing when they spot something in the water. Thinking initially it was just a pair of shorts floating, they soon realized how sadly mistaken they were. Upon closer examination, they discovered it was the body of a young woman, floating face down in a cove. Officer Yarchuk, an off-duty police officer who was working at the festival as head of security, was first alerted by marina workers Deanna and Harry Elder. Oddly, before Yarchuk can even get to Lauren's body, Harry Elder noted, "Aaron was in a canoe paddling over there and he says to me, 'That could be one of our friends over there,' and I think it's odd because we haven't publicly announced anything about a person in the water. I don't know how they knew that," Elder would go on to say. Whilst Lauren's body was out of Yarchuk's jurisdiction, he immediately went into investigation mode, as he had a feeling that this would quickly turn into a crime scene. "I noticed a bunch of trauma and blood on the back of her head, on her left side, and her shoulder area," said Yarchuk. He also notices what he believes was a bite mark on Lauren's chest and suggested that a rape kit was needed. Sadly, those on the scene's thoughts immediately turned to Lauren's family. All we could think of was that somebody's life was getting ready to change and the mom was probably at home cooking supper, waiting for the family to get together. And we knew that wasn't going to happen, Deanna Elder would later say. Sadly, Lauren's family's lives were changed forever when later that day, when the DeKalb County Sheriff's deputy arrived at Sherry's home. Sherry reportedly had a gut feeling the entire day that something was wrong, calling Lauren over and over again. Her fears were confirmed. He said, "I just want to tell you that your daughter didn't make it. She's dead. My gut told me," I said to him. First statement, "Where are the people she was with?" And he stepped back and he looked at me and he said, "We have them. We're questioning them." An investigation was launched. After Lauren's body was discovered, Hannah, Chris, and Aaron were taken by boat to the mainland for questioning. Immediately it was suspicious to them that Lauren hadn't been seen since the night before, but it had not been reported. Witnesses told police they had seen Hannah, Aaron, and Chris just hours before Lauren was found, and they were unalarmed by their friend being missing. Officers on the boat would describe the three as appearing to be nervous, whispering to each other. Officers would claim that Aaron would repeatedly say to Chris and Hannah, "Don't mention anything, I'll do the talking," and noted that when speaking with Aaron on the boat, he said, "I'm thinking about how I am going to get the gun from your hip and get off this boat." But this is unverified, and Aaron did not succeed and was taken in for questioning. During police interviews, they all claimed, when questioned, that Lauren had been gone since they woke up, but when pressed as to why they didn't bother to report it or make any form of effort to find her, they all replied that they had just assumed she was with another group, and at that point weren't too worried, as Lauren did know quite a few people at the festival she could have hung around with. Eventually, however, their stories went from being rehearsed and word for word, and the three tales began going in completely different directions. Hannah would tell police that Lauren left the campsite in the early hours of Saturday morning and got into a boat with some identified boys. Hannah accepted that she knew Lauren had left her belongings, but again told police she really wasn't worried at that point and assumed she'd be back at some point in the day to collect her stuff. Aaron told police Lauren never even made it back to camp with them after leaving the bar. That himself, Hannah and Chris had gone to the campsite without her. Chris stated that he believes Lauren got up in the middle of the night, but he didn't feel her leaving the hammock, insinuating that she had drunkenly fallen into the lake whilst relieving herself away from where the group was sleeping. Lauren's body was taken out of the water and an autopsy was conducted. The autopsy revealed she had died from blunt force trauma. The autopsy shows a catalog of injuries, broken fingers, nose, and hemorrhaging on her back and thighs. The autopsy also found bruises on the top of her back, shoulders, and her breast, this one being in the shape of a bite mark. In typical investigations, a bite mark in that area would suggest that a sexual assault had taken place and a rape kit would be undertaken. However, no rape kit was done on Lauren's body. The reason they didn't do a rape kit, because she was wearing a tampon. Later, private investigator Sheila Wazaki would shame the investigation for this decision. The sheriff said she had a tampon in, so she couldn't be sexually assaulted, which infuriates me. You can be raped with a tampon in. The tampon could also have been a decoy, placed there by her attacker. Nevertheless, there was no rape kit and no DNA evidence taken from Lauren's body during her autopsy. Lauren's mom also told investigators that the clothes Lauren was wearing when she died did not belong to her. According to her mom, and she didn't look as if she had dressed herself with buttons misplaced. Her bra only hooked on one eyelet and the straps twisted. It would have been uncomfy and unlikely that Lauren had not adjusted it. The autopsy revealed that her blood alcohol level was twice above the legal limit, but no drugs were found in her system. The autopsy concluded that the marks all over her bodies were consistent with the fall from the cliff. There was also some evidence of crushing in her throat, which police put down to hitting rocks during the fall, though a lot of people, including Lauren's family, believe it was due to strangulation. It's worth noting that the autopsy only found minimal amounts of water in her lungs. Not impossible for her to have drowned from, but not likely either, meaning that she was dead before she went into the water. Despite these inconsistencies, Lauren's death was ruled as accidental. Police would put it down to Lauren falling off the cliff, drunk, hitting the side of the cliff as she fell, causing her injuries, and then suffering blunt force trauma when she entered the water due to the force of her fall. Cassie attempted to voice her concerns over the strange happenings around Lauren's death to authorities. Cassie told police that she had previously dated Aaron Lilly and that he was violent towards her, detailing her injuries and providing photo proof. Cassie also revealed that Aaron was arrested on charges of domestic violence and had multiple DUIs. She also revealed to police that Chris also had a record. He had 3 DUIs and had previously been charged with fleeing the scene of an accident. Despite this, police still insisted that Lauren's death was due to misadventure and closed the case. Cassie would later say on a podcast when discussing Lauren whether it was a drunken accident that someone, hurt her and they didn't mean to hurt her, but they hurt her. But I still don't think she fell off the cliff. After Hannah, Chris, and Aaron arrived home, Chris posted pictures taken throughout the weekend on social media captioned, "Best weekend ever." People will argue that Chris had posted the pictures before Lauren was found, but this claim is disputed. In the days leading up to her funeral, Lauren's friends held a fundraiser at the Rudder Restaurant in Hendersonville, announcing a scholarship to be named after her. Lauren's funeral was held in Hendersonville on Friday, July 31st. Less than a week after she had died, her family opted to play her favorite Drake songs during the service and told mourners, "No doubt the heavens just got a little more interesting and a lot more fun." Friends and family filled the church, giving Lauren a well-deserved send-off. Noticeable though, Hannah, Aaron, and Chris opted not to attend. Hannah and Aaron continued dating and eventually moved away to Florida together and married. Sherry would later report that she had reached out to and spoken with Hannah, with her asking for more information about the day her daughter died. The two spoke over Skype and Hannah changed her story again, telling Sherry that Lauren went to pee in the middle of the night and fell off the cliff. Sherry reported that during the Skype call, Hannah's mobile phone rang, and she could hear Aaron on the other end of the line telling Hannah to shut up and stick to the story. Sherry decided to hire a private investigator, Sheila Wazaki, to investigate the inconsistencies surrounding her daughter's death. Wazaki was able to get Lauren's autopsy re-examined, which revealed that the original investigation failed to disclose that Lauren had hemorrhaging in her throat, which could have indicated choking. Also, Sherry was never told the reason as to why the rape kit was not performed. The re-examination of her autopsy would reveal the ridiculous reason why, to which outrage ensued. The off-duty police officer also did not buy the accidental death ruling, saying, "There is no way that was an accident. I will go to the grave believing that girl was killed. Her body was moved and they are hiding the truth." Yarchuk would work with Wazaki to prove that Lauren's death was no accident. Yarchuk and Wazaki conducted multiple experiments at Center Hill Lake involving a mannequin the same weight and size as Lauren Agee. Wazaki said, "When you look at the cliff and you're there are 2 possibilities. She fell off one side, which is a 90-foot drop, or she went off the other side, and there is no way her injuries added up to what's on her body. So if she was without her shoes, the bottom of her feet would be torn up like meat. It's not. There's just one little injury on there. The bruising in her back does show that she fell, but it doesn't show that she fell off the cliff. She probably fell off the ledge to another ledge. So the pair tested this theory, pushing the mannequin off the cliff over and over again at different angles, forces, and at no point did the mannequin fall into the water. "You can't get to the water," said reporter Dennis Ferrier. Carl Lewis couldn't get to the water. The best long jumper in the world could not make it to the water. You would be tied up in trees and rocks. Between Yarchuk and Wysocki, they threw that mannequin off of the cliff over 50 times, with the same results. "We dropped it and we took it to different areas to see if it could hit the bottom of the cliff," said Wysocki. "It couldn't, it didn't, it never did. When you fall, you have arms and legs. You don't roll like a ball, so there are arms flailing, legs failing. There's no way she would have hit the water. There's no way she did hit the water." The pair also noted that in some inexplicable anomaly, Lauren had fallen into the water all by herself. The currents were going in the wrong way and the opposite way. Wysocki explained that she would have ended up by the marina. Lauren Agee did not fall from the cliff into the water. Yarchuk also remembered something he noted when he first found Lauren's body, a distinct triangle shape indented into her chest. Upon re-examining the autopsy, it was revealed that the triangle imprint exactly matches a section of the canoe Aaron and Chris had rented for the weekend. This suggests that Lauren had gotten the mark after being laid in the canoe, whilst her body was moved to the cove. However, police have dismissed this new evidence, who claim that the mark was made when bringing Lauren's body out of the water. Yarchuk absolutely refutes this. He was the first on the scene, and he knew the mark was there since she was found. Wysocki agrees, stating that the angle of the section of the canoe does not match the rescue canoes, yet Aaron's and Chris's does. She also points to the fact the angles of the sections on both the rescue canoes and Chris and Aaron's are different, with only one matching the one branded into Lauren. The family, whilst fighting for justice, have been hassled continuously by trolls. Comments made on a Reddit thread about the case contained false and damaging information. However, the comments, which came from an IP address in Florida, on the same street as Hannah and Aaron, were actually called out by Reddit users as being made by Hannah Palmer, and the comments were deleted. So it looks like the trio are still keeping eyes on the case and updates even up till today. Wysocki began a podcast about the case titled Without Warning, which back in that time was one of the first. Now we have the likes of Voices for Justice and Down the Hill, which utilizes true crime listeners in order to gain awareness for cases ignored by police. In January 2016, Sherry brought a $10 million wrongful death suit against Aaron Lilly, Hannah Palmer, Chris Stout, and Brixner Gambrell in an attempt to get the truth. Brixner Gambrell, well, he was never mentioned before. In any statement from Hannah, Chris, and Aaron, none of them told police that Brixner was with them at the campsite. But through the private investigation, Sherry found out that he was, and she wanted answers as to why the three had tried to cover it up. Sherry also obtained a court order to get audio of all the 911 calls made from the lake, but when she arrived to collect the CD, she was told they had been lost due to a computer glitch. The possibility that her daughter had made a call or tried to reach out is one that haunts her to this day. Sherry said, "We know from other friends she had messaged saying, 'Come get me. I'm not having fun. People are being mean to me.' She didn't make a call from her phone, but I know my daughter. I know she would have tried to call if she was in trouble." Hannah, Chris, Aaron, and Brixner all plead the fifth, which allows for witnesses to decline to answer questions when they may incriminate themselves by answering. During one hearing, Hannah was asked, "Did you choke, strangle, or otherwise put your hands around Lauren Agee's throat between July 24, 2015, the evening you were together, and the time of her death? And did you intentionally or accidentally kill Lauren Agee?" To which she refused to answer. Sherry's lawyer retorted, "Those aren't hard questions to answer if you're innocent." Hannah was dropped by a judge from the lawsuit. Lauren's mother filed a wrongful death suit, which was later dropped. But during this time, a new witness came forward. A man named Chris Brown was staying with his family at Center Hill Lake on the weekend of Wakefest, and alleges that after midnight on the night in question, he witnessed a young man swimming towards the marina dock. The youth climbed onto the dock and appeared to be in a great distress and seemed worn out, claiming he had nearly drowned while trying to swim to the dock. The witness now claims that the young man he saw that night was Aaron Lilly, and if this is the case, it seems to contradict the trio's statement that they were already on their way back to their campsite by this time. However, as of 2022, Lauren Taylor Agee's death still remains a mystery. For Lauren Agee's family, nothing has ever added up about what happened that fateful weekend. Lauren's mother's key question remains unanswered: what really happened to her daughter on the cliff?